Hello and welcome. This is Kevin, also known as AWOL. And today we are making, I even forgot which number this one was. This was pattern 70127. And as I was setting this up, I can say as I was well, right at this point here, I was looking at the colors and I looked at the darker green versus the kind of aqua blue green. And I really started second guessing myself. I really thought I made a mistake, that the colors were too close. Because as I'm putting these together here, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't know. However, as you will see as we go along, it turns out it's plenty of contrast. It turned out really, really super cool. The way it starts, this whole, the yellow has a straight row and then the other one is every other one kind of thing. Um, Again, at first, wasn't feeling it, wasn't thinking this is, you know, is this really cool or not? And then by the time it got finished, I was like, that is really neat. It really did add something to it. I think it's much better than having part of a broken pattern or something else. It just gave it a little bit more like there was an intent to have the rest of the stuff centered. So that was way cool. Um, so yeah, this is where it's just goes every other one. So I'm basically at this point, most of the knots are going to the right, except you saw that I had to take the aqua and go over top of the green. So that was going off to the left. And that's just, so that way there's no like weird, darker ones in the midst of the things up there. So that was it. Um, which I think this really made it come out really well because you hide that dark green until it suddenly comes out and it becomes this like outer border thing that's going on. And it's flanked by the yellows, which is what gives it the more contrast. It's because there's a yellow on either side of it, I think is what really helps to distinguish it from the other colors. Mind you, it is much darker. When I was pulling the color, I thought to myself that it seemed that this would be a contrast. But like I said, right when I was first setting it up, I really started second guessing myself a lot. And that can happen, we don't necessarily always hit the best colors possible the first try around. And then sometimes maybe we do. Like this one, I think this was pretty neat. Mind you, the pattern was like with reds and stuff, right? Which again, I think that would have been very cool as well. Um, I think it was I saw the bluish green first when I went to the trolley to try to pick out colors, and then I was like, I think I want to work with that. And then it was like, okay, so what else would I put with it? And the yellow is what came up kind of next. The yellow is sort of, it's not overly vibrant or anything. It's not, mind, I'm holding the bracelet in my hand. That's what I'm looking down at. It's not, it's a pretty flat color. Nothing crazy. It's not like a fluorescent or something insane. Um, but it works. It works really well for this. So here comes the darker green. And almost immediately you can see that just seems a lot darker than the little dots that are up above it. And that's really cool. When it came to the pattern itself, um, I like always tried to find what's the easiest path to do it. And I think it took me a while to kind of settle into what I thought was the easier way. I tried a couple different ones. So if you watch the video, you can see the different ways that I tried and see which one kind of works best for you. Because there's no definitive you have to do it a certain way, you know, other than you always start at the highest point, it always works its way down. But, you know, beyond that, things can kind of change around, especially like with the way that this little center part kind of works. Which, mind you, I don't. I'm pretty sure this thing has like a name. Like it's a little bit like the Girl Scout things, right? Like there's something about that part of the pattern or whatever. Like they have like names for these things, but I don't know what this is. But I am curious. If you know what that thing is called, I'd be really really interested in finding out because I kind of feel like it's a thing. I'm not 100%, but I kind of feel like this is something. So anyway, um, it is all simply just well, no, it's mostly all just right and left knots. However, that dark green has to come down to the corners, and it'll come down and it'll do a right and then a left at the corner. But everything else is just a regular plain old left knot and then the right knot. So um, mostly pretty easy. You know, this is the beginning of more intermediate, I would guess. You know, somewhere in that kind of range. Not terribly difficult. This is um I think the whole bracelet, and it's pretty big. Um I think the whole bracelet took me about 2 hours to make. So overall, I'd say that's not too terribly bad. Um to be honest, I forgot how many strings this is. Let's see. This is do 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 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It's like 11, or was it 11? Was this the one that's 22 individual strands? That sounds right. Yeah, I've been working on so many different things, and I didn't actually count this when I like just went at it, just opened up the pattern and did the thing. So yeah, I'm not even really sure anymore. But yeah, I definitely I definitely like it. It's way cool. Oh, and this would be a good one to do doubles and, you know, make it all the way around for a bag or something, because the way that these sides go, they would obviously make a complete whatever that pattern is multiple times over, which, you know, going all the way around, that would look very, very, very cool. Um, yeah, I don't know how I don't even know how you look up to find out what a shape is necessarily called, because I know like some of these things have actual names, um, but I don't know how like I know people just know the names, but I don't know how they know the names. So if again, if you know what it is, I'm dying to know. I'm really really curious. Um, but yeah, you would have these things going all the way around, and I think that would be pretty neat. The dark green, when we were talking about making the pattern, my concern was that the dark green would get all used up. However, because it didn't start at the very top and it's not at the very bottom, that turned out to be okay. So this really did kind of help that part of the whole thing along. So that's kind of nice. Uh, rest of the color is pretty much not too unbalanced. Obviously some of the yellows get used a lot more, but that's because of the long rows inside of well, yeah, kind of inside of the boxes, and then the long rows that are making up the stuff at the top and the bottom. So yeah, the yellows do get used up quite a bit. So yeah, just again, use caution when you're cutting your string. That's all. Just make sure that you leave yourself plenty of room. Um, do. What else could I tell you? Um, so I mentioned the fact that it's not too difficult. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's sort of the thing that I think would make for like a fun, maybe like even if I had done it. So this string is all doubled up, right? If I had done it single stranded, I think making it a little bit more dainty would have been nice as well. I think that would have been a fun one. I'm not sure how many more of the things that you could fit inside, but that might be kind of neat. That might, you know, yeah, this was one of the alternative ways of doing it where I kind of just shot out the whole rows, kind of coming out like a chevron and stuff just to see if that was going to necessarily make anything at all easier. Um, sort of. I mean, because then, then you get this nice long row, and then I do a little bit on the other side, and it gets a long row. I I kind of feel like maybe this way kind of makes a little bit more sense. It's just a little bit easier, kind of, helps the flow just a little bit better. But again, it's all up to your discretion, you know. So yeah, and then this gets a longer road coming across. So yeah, I don't know. There's no there's no definitive way of doing this part. Um, it's about trying to find what is comfortable for you, which way you like the strings to lay on one side versus the other. Maybe you prefer making right-sided knots versus left, or vice versa. There's still a lot of room for personal preferences. So I don't like to try to. There are some people who, when they give instructions, they're like, "You do it this way," and it's like, but that's maybe not comfortable to everybody else. Like I've seen when I was first starting out and playing around with some basic macrame, people were showing me how you hold the rope with your left hand and you kind of working the knots with your left two fingers on the left hand and your whole right hand. And that's how you do macrame. And it was just like, I could not do it. I could not hold the rope still and manipulate the other ropes and stuff. So for me, I found if I put it on a board and put a clip at both ends, so that way I didn't have to use my left hand to hold the other strings, I could do it and I could do it at blazing speeds. So, it's about finding the way that really works for you and run with that, don't let somebody tell you you can only do it one way. Um, because they're probably wrong. And I really do like avoid trying to say such things because I think it's a terrible way to get people to try stuff because when they try it and it doesn't work for them, then they're like, oh, well, forget it. I can't do it. And they abandon the whole thing. Me, I like to teach that you can find your way and try to help guide you into finding your way. And when you do, and you're super comfortable with it, and things are working out really well for you, then you'll be excited and you'll do more. And that's really what I want to teach. I want to inspire and I want people to understand that, you know, there's this doing this stuff can be pretty awesome. So we are past the halfway point, like always. And I haven't thanked my Patreon supporters, guys. I really owe them so much for what they have done as far as contributions to me and my ability to buy strings so that way I can actually make stuff for you guys. So thank you very much to my Patreon supporters. Again, I couldn't do this without their support. So thank you so much. Um, yeah, I got to throw that in because these kind of videos, they just end abruptly. Like 1 minute I'm making stuff and like the next minute it's there, it's done, the big reveal happens. So yeah, that's the thing. And there's a weird smell in the office. I don't know what that is. I need to, when the video is done, I need to go check that out. That's really strange. So sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, this is going into the outer part to the last one of the diamonds. And you can see at the end there, it went to the left and then right. The dark green is the only string that does that. Everything else, I just let go straight, you know. Mind you, on a pattern like this, because some of the yellows were getting used more than the others, if you ran into trouble with the lengths of your strings, you could trade out a short one for a long one if you needed to, in order to make it so that way you could get to the finish without having something run out. So it's always good to remember that that's an option. This one definitely has that ability there. I don't think the blue green was nearly as, like it was going to run out. Like it gets used pretty good, but it's not like what the yellow does. And I think, yeah, the dark green kind of used up quite a bit, but it wasn't so bad. So you can see on this one, I kind of pretty much followed the same thing I did on the previous one. I found that this method kind of really worked for me. And so I decided I was going to go with it and just continue that same thing. And now I bring the yellows in, and then I bring the greens in. Oh, yesterday's video, I talked about the fact that it didn't end on the a straight row, and this one does. And I'm not sure if you'll be able to see on this camera. You're watching the reveal, but if you look at the very end where it loops over the last string, it makes it look like there's another row of dots, which is kind of what I had been talking about, which I think really does help make this thing just a little bit cooler. Um, it's at random. I know it's silly, but I like nuanced things. I like when people study the work and go, yes, I see. There's something interesting here. I like that. I like that a lot. I like when they look at it and say, yes, it's balanced and you have, you know, yeah. But that's obvious. I mean, I've been like that since probably when I started making bracelets. So, and again, they all pretty much are going off to the left, except for the lighter green here will go over top of the darker green. And then I could have brought the other yellow on the left hand side down, but I figure if I just work it kind of like a chevron, that it'll keep the bracelet coming out balanced. And I'm a ways from off of the hook, off the clip. So yeah, that's the thing. Again, I the only reason I work so far away from the clip is so that way you guys can see more of what's going on and gauge kind of what's happening and stuff. So otherwise, that would be up a lot higher. Yeah, so there's just another dotted row and then the another one of the straight rows. So yeah, we're really close to the end now, guys. So yeah, leave in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you like this bracelet? Do you think maybe I could have done better colors? Whatever. Share your thoughts. I like to know that other people watched it, and that you guys have thoughts about it, and just let me know what you're thinking. And here comes the last row before the big reveal. So thanks again for hanging out this long, guys. I really do appreciate it. And, you know, as always, don't get your strings in a bunch.